Is the M1 MacBook Air the perfect computer to buy here in early 2022? Keep watching to find out. Hey, what's up guys? It's Alex, back with another video, and I wanted to share my thoughts today around the 2020 M1 MacBook Air. Now this laptop was unveiled back in the fall of 2020, and I bought mine back in January of 2021, so exactly a year ago. I've been using it almost every day for a year, and I think it's finally time I can release this long-term review of the M1 MacBook Air, because it was a new concept. It's very cool, but it's kind of first generation tech with the Apple Silicon. So I think having it for a year, it's been long enough, I'm ready to talk about it. So if you'll remember, I released a video about the M1 MacBook Pro, which you can watch up here in the corner. That was the first M1 computer that I bought. Bought it, used it for about a month, and I actually ended up returning it in favor for the MacBook Air, which I'm recording on right here. I bought the M1 Air because as I was using the Pro, I realized the internals are the same. They both run the M1 processor. They both have all the exact same internals. The only thing extra you're getting with the Pro is a bigger battery, which is, legitimate, and a fan so that you can get just a little more power out of it for those heavier tasks. So as I was using the Pro, I found myself watching more and more MacBook Air M1 videos and thought, why don't I just buy an Air? It's the same thing. And, is it really going to make that much of a difference? So I kind of took a little bit of a leap of faith. I sold the Pro at about $1,300, and then I turned around and bought the Air. Because with the Pro, it was the base model of 256 gigabytes, and the way I film video content and the way I use my computer, that filled up very fast. I need at least a terabyte, and that was also 8 gigabytes of RAM. So I returned the Pro, got my $1,300 back, and I'm like, why not? I'll just go all in and I'll upgrade. So I spent about $1,500 on this MacBook Air, getting 16 gigabytes of RAM and a terabyte SSD. So I maxed this thing out as much as I possibly could. I think I could have put 2 terabytes in it if I really wanted to, but that was just too much. So this for me is a sweet spot. I kind of customized it the way I wanted. And so that is kind of the story why I don't have the Pro anymore and why I'm talking about the Air. So if you look back on my channel, I talk about the Pro. If you want to learn more about the processor, the M1, how it works, just go back and watch that video. It's pretty much the exact same thing. But let's dive into the MacBook Air for this video. All right, so here we go. After 1 year of use, these are my thoughts. I'm going to break it down by category for you. Starting off with the hardware. This is the same clamshell design that we've seen in years past with the MacBook Air since about 2016. They really did the slim down design. They had a complete overhaul and redesign from the original Air. I did a video review, long-term review of my wife's MacBook Air 2015. You can check that out up in the corner there. And that was about the last year of the old design since they introduced this new design. And the 2020 M1 is the same design as we've seen in years past, except for a big difference in that the keyboard is finally fixed. So up until 2020, we've had the shallow butterfly keys, which have been complete garbage to say the least in Apple laptops. They're just complete trash, and it was a big hang up for me with buying any new laptops, as I really wanted them to fix that issue. They've finally gone back to a more mechanical and kind of traditional feel on the keyboard, so there's actually good key travel with this thing. No keys getting stuck. It doesn't hurt to type on. So the keyboard is amazing. I love it so much. I love using it to type. I actually typed up this review and all of my videos on this computer. Absolutely love typing on it. It's a joy. In addition to that, and this was a gripe I had with the MacBook M1 Pro, is the touch bar is gone on the Air. It's still on the Pro if you prefer it, but I am one that does not like it at all. I don't like change in the keys that I'm using. You tend to build a muscle memory when you're typing, and if it's constantly changing up there, you can't really predict what's going to be there or not. I guess you could if you used it long enough, but was not a fan of the touch bar. I found it to be more of a headache and a hassle than it was worth in the use. So I'm back to traditional keys, and I absolutely love it so much. I think I use every single one of these function keys at least once every time I'm using my computer, and it's amazing. And in addition to that, they kept the Touch ID sensor up at the top right. So the touch bar, what I loved about it is it introduced the Touch ID sensor. Love it. It's very effective. It works every time. but they kept it on the Air. It serves kind of as like a power button as well as a biometric scanner. So getting into your computer is a breeze, and I absolutely love the keyboard on this thing. And the trackpad as well. It's the same traditional Apple trackpad that we've grown accustomed to and love to use. The size is great for all the creative work that I have to do on it. Absolutely no complaints there. The haptic feedback that I get out of it is fantastic. It feels clicky. It's nice. It's a little different than the Pro, actually. It has a slightly different feel because the chassis of the computer is more slendered down, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the trackpad does feel fantastic even with that slendered down chassis. But talking about that, it does kind of tend to slant towards you ever so slightly. The Pro is flat. It sits on the table flat. So your hands are typing flat versus the Air, it's kind of like angled back at you a little bit. And that was something I definitely noticed because I've used MacBook Pros for years. And this is really my first Air that I've ever used consistently and regularly. And I noticed it for a while, but it didn't take me long to get used to just kind of the new angle and the new way of typing, if that's even the way to say it. It didn't really change anything. It just kind of, I don't know, it's like when you use any new keyboard, you kind of have to get used to it for a second, and then your brain kind of figures it out and you get used to it. But that's kind of what it was with this. Since it's slightly different than the Pro, it just took me an extra second to get used to it. About the only thing I don't care for with the hardware design on this computer is the fact that it's still using 2 USB-C ports, and we didn't get the USB or card reader. It's a little bit of an easier pill to swallow on the Air because I know it's just geared towards the general consumer. It's not necessarily for pro users, so general people will not need a card reader, SD card reader, or much USB support. So, I mean, at least with the price tag on this, you can kind of understand where they're coming from. That's a general consumer's computer. And I keep gesturing over here because that's where my computer's sitting. I can see myself on screen, but the camera's there. So that's why I'm gesturing this way, because my computer's sitting right here, right outside the camera angle. But yeah, 2 USB-C ports. It is what it is. I have to use a dongle, still living the dongle life. But I don't have I'm kind of used to it at this point. You know, it's not as much of a gripe. I always have the dongle with me, or I know exactly where it's at. I can charge from either of those ports. Is what it is. Sometimes I wish I had one on the other side because they're both on the left. It'd be nice to have one on the right side from time to time, but hey, at least they kept the headphone jack in it, right? And then the battery life is phenomenal. Like I said, that was kind of a big hang up for me with going to the Air from the Pro, is that the Pro had a bigger battery than the Air does. But to be honest, I don't notice much difference at all. Maybe a little bit, like it'll drain a little bit faster than the Pro did. But even after a year of use, almost every day, like, the battery's still fine. I'll leave it unplugged for days. I wouldn't hesitate to go work away from home or offsite with this without a charger. It'll last me through the day, no problem. Especially even if I'm editing video. I've edited full 4K videos, multiple streams, sat down and just like had editing sessions for hours, rendered, uploaded everything, just completely on battery life, and it still just like doesn't even drain half the battery. It's amazing. Absolutely love the battery. I keep it plugged in when and where I can, just so I can grab it and use it whenever I have to and don't have to come up with a dead battery. But rarely do I ever find myself needing to plug it in like it's gonna die. It's always just, it's got battery for me when I need it, and I really like that. So internal hardware, let's talk about the M1 configuration. Like I said, if you want more of a detailed breakdown, I did a breakdown on that about a year ago with the M1 MacBook Pro, and you can watch that up here in the corner. But as far as just an average, or not an average, but like a daily use case, how I feel about it, it's still amazing. I'm honestly still blown away by what this computer can do. Like I said, I can edit multiple streams of 4K footage, and it just does not skip a beat. It doesn't get hot. It doesn't wind up, which is another bonus feature of the hardware, is that it doesn't even have a fan. Everything is solid state, just like your iPad or your phone. It's solid state. There's no moving parts. I can flip it, any which direction. You don't have to worry about like a hard drive going corrupt or a fan getting off kilter or whatever. But I just love the fact that it's solid state. I'm sure it'll get warm from time to time depending on what I'm doing, but I'm often surprised. I usually expect it to get warm, especially if I'm editing footage, especially off battery. It doesn't get hot, which is amazing. The performance stays high, the temperatures stay low, and it's just an awesome computer. Performance-wise, for a year-old chip, I am honestly not tempted to upgrade at all, whereas in the past I would have been. Let's talk about software. I think software is pretty straightforward because it is Mac OS. You really don't get any other options. I mean, you could if you wanted to like dual boot it or whatever, but runs Mac OS. And at the time of filming this video, Mac OS Monterey was just released, and it runs it butterly smooth, as you would expect with a year-old computer. Runs it fantastically well. And this is one of the biggest hangups that I have, like with my work laptop, and I did a video review on that, which you can go watch up in the corner. And that is a spec'd out 2019 i9 top of the line 15-inch MacBook Pro, and I get the spinning beach ball of death like all the time on that thing. And I kid you not, I think I've only had that once on this MacBook Air. I'll be honest, I've had it once, and that was for an application that was like frozen or unresponsive. I don't even remember what it was. It was some third-party application. I don't think I even use it anymore. But that was it. Like, honestly, honest to goodness, since then, I have not had the spinning beach ball of death. I've had like no lag. Sure, you have loading and wait times with moving files over and transfers and whatnot, but like the computer just doesn't freeze on me where I have to like sit back and wait for it to catch up so it doesn't crash. Like, it's buttery smooth, and I'm just completely blown away by how reliable it's been. I think if I had to sum up the entire thing, is power. Yes, it's very powerful, but also extremely reliable. And it's just such a joy to have two of those things in the same package for once, which is awesome. So how do I feel? I kind of want to sum up this video to talk about how you feel, because tech makes you feel something, right? You either feel regret, or you feel like you're not getting your money's worth out of it, or you feel like you don't understand it well enough, or you feel like there's something better out there. So how do I feel even after a year? When I bought it, I felt unsure. I felt like I was taking a little bit of a leap of faith, because up until this point a year ago, MacBook Airs were just bottom tier for the average person. This is somebody that's like a student or doesn't really want to get any kind of serious work done. They just want a reliable computer. They get a MacBook Air. So that's why I've always used MacBook Pros. I need portability, but I also need cost effectiveness. I'll kind of meet in the middle. And that's why I bought the Pro initially. But with selling it and jumping ship to the Air, I was so uncertain about how it was going to go. And honest to goodness, I couldn't be happier. And it's just at a fantastic price point. At $1,000, you can get into the Apple ecosystem with, in my opinion, is one of the best bang for buck laptops products out there. Just the power you get, the reliability, the design, everything's tried and true and tested, and it's fantastic. I think the only thing that this MacBook Air lacks is just the USB selection. And that's honestly a big temptation that I've had with the newer machines, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, is, I can upgrade and get my native card reader back, or a USB or whatever back into the machine. But I don't think it's worth it. Not at the price. I think this laptop serves me exceptionally well. It does absolutely everything I need it to. I do schoolwork on it. I do video work. I do photo work. Even some graphics and animation design. Literally everything I need it to do, it does flawlessly. So I have no desire to look for something else. Like I said earlier, in the past, I might be looking to upgrade. It's been a year. What else is out there? There's some other bigger and better stuff that's come up. But I honestly don't feel that. For the first time, I have a computer that I really want to hang on to for as long as I can. And I'm pretty excited. And that was kind of a gamble, because a year ago, like I said, it was kind of a first generation piece of tech with Apple creating their own silicon. Granted, they've done it in their iPhones and their iPads for a long time. They kind of know what they're doing. So with Mac OS, it was like, are they going to, create their own processors and then just like shut down all the other applications that rely on Intel-based processors to be able to run? And that's something I would say, if you're considering buying this, just know that, in a good way, this is a good thing. All the Intel-based applications that I've had to use in the past have run flawlessly, seamlessly, sometimes even better. They end up optimized for Apple Silicon M1. So I've had to use like Microsoft Office, Adobe, Creative Cloud, all of those different applications that would natively need to run on an Intel processor. And Apple just did amazing work with taking the legwork out of it for the developers by essentially, with the computer languages, the application is coded to run on Intel. We need it coded to run on Apple Silicon M1. they bridge the gap. They understand both languages fluently, and they can just like whoosh, they seamlessly merge them. So the developer doesn't have to do anything different. They just recompile their code, and it all works. It's fantastic. It's amazing. I still use Intel-based applications to this day, and they run even better than they did on my Intel-based Mac. So I wouldn't let that deter you from using one of these. They're pretty sweet. All that to say, should you buy this computer in 2022? And my answer for almost everybody is yes. Almost everybody. So if you're a creative professional and you need raw horsepower for video, graphics, photos, design, whatever it is you're doing, chances are you kind of know what you need and you want. You might be somebody that really needs that Mac Pro cheese grater tower with all the, $50,000 worth of processing power in it. That's great. Go for it. But I'm going to say for the average person, from anybody from who's a student to a casual web browser to even somebody that's an amateur photographer, they do videos, this is like the end-all be-all computer for like everybody. I don't even know if I would consider going for the MacBook Pro at this point, because like I say, they are the exact same on the inside. Don't let the extra battery life and the fan deter you. You know what I mean? Use your money for like the extra storage in the MacBook Air. Spec out the Air for what you need it for. That's what I did, and I have not regretted it at all. I actually did it both ways, and I prefer this way. But yeah, it's just a great computer. I recommended it to my mom, my mother-in-law, other creative professionals, everybody I can. I'm just like, if you want to spend the least amount of money and get the most bang for your buck, power and reliability out of a Mac, buy the MacBook Air M1 2020. You won't be disappointed, trust me. And that's really all I have to say. I'm done. I think I'm done. Yeah, that's it. But let me know your thoughts. Comment below. Did you buy this computer? Did you do what I did and you bought one, returned it, and gave this one a try? You weren't sure about it because the MacBook Air has had a bit of a stigma, or it's always fallen into this category. And now its customer base has grown just a little bit bigger with the M1. And the fact that they kept that original $1,000 price point is just awesome. I love it. I've never been so excited about a computer. I've followed tech and computers for a very long time, many years, and this is like the most bang for buck computer I've ever seen, and I'm just excited. I recommend it to as many people as I possibly can. So if you end up getting it, or if you have it already, comment below, let me know your thoughts. Maybe there's something I missed. Maybe there are some downsides that you don't like about it, that it doesn't work for you. But for me and my workflow and everybody else I know, it's just a perfect computer. So let me know your thoughts, comment below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.